4:30. I'm a stickler for starting and stopping on time. One of my many odd things. My idea was this. We all are neighbors, but we're not just in HOA, we're in a co-housing thing, whatever that means. I'm not quite sure. But you are. Sit down. Whatever that means. To do that means we have to get to know each other better. So I just figured I would use this opportunity to sort of say who I am. Fire alarm goes. Thank you, David. Down the fireball. Okay, very good, very good, very good. Thank you, David, for that. Very good, very good. So that's it. So again, a little bit about this. I'll have you out of here 1 hour, no longer, and there's going to be 3 parts. Number one, sort of who I am. Some of you sort of know, but I have to sort of explain to you. I'm here 4 years, might as well tell you. The second part is what is the fire department. The third part is what was my adventure there, what did I learn there. So it'll be a slideshow for the third part. First of all, is I'm probably like the rest of you. I've always felt that I don't know how I got here. I'm not sure how it works, and I hope nobody else will find out. And that's what I always felt as fire chief and dean at the same time too. Is how do I work this, and how can I get to the end with nobody catching me? How did I get here? Well, just thing is, you're going to see a little thing. This is a book in Korean, and it's my fire adventures. That's me. So I was a big seller in Korea, Russia, and China on this. Yeah. And how I got there is totally unbelievable story to me and to you too. You'll see sort of how I staggered into this. That's the end of the story. We'll go back to the beginning now. I'm a professor of philosophy, not a philosopher. A philosopher is somebody who has questions. David Rampey has questions. I have all the answers, which is much worse than having questions. So I'm not a philosopher. I consider myself more of kind of a mystic because I have a lot of ideas that are sort of set in stone. Well, what do I believe? I believe in what's called the argument from design. The planet is so beautiful and so mysterious that there's, call it God, call it the universe, call it some forces, that the universe is flowing, and I'm trying to flow with it. So I'm not a materialist. I'm a determinist. I believe most people are fixed, and I'm not going to try and change the world too much. I'm trying to change myself. That's it. Many of you are more socially conscious than I am. I'm sort of pessimistic about the world. I'm optimistic about 2 or 3 people around me, what we can do, in our own little thing here. I'm an idealist. What is an idealist being in philosophy? If you take your hand and put it in a bucket of water, ice water, then put it in a bucket of room temperature water, the water would seem hot, right? If somebody else had their hand in a bucket of boiling water and put their hand in the same room temperature water, it would seem cold. So that bucket of water is either hot or cold, it's just what you think it is. In the same way, there's no such thing as sound. It's our eardrum vibrating somewhere, and other animals hear different sounds than we do. Bees see different colors than we do. What you're seeing is not real. It's your idea of real. So don't get excited about it. I believe in a cyclical theory of history, not in progress. Things sort of go round and round, like the Greeks and Romans believed, like the Buddhists believed. We go round and round. How we're going round and round, we should try to do our best to make it as good as we can. I see the world as theater, and there are many number of you who are theatrical. I won't mention any names, but you see the world as theater, you're theatrical, and you sort of live your life as if you're in a play, which I always sort of seemed it was. Almost every meeting I'm in, or every TV show I watch, or every event I watch, it seems that it's just theater. So that's it. So I'm theatrical because it is theater to me. A couple of things. I try to accept what is. I try to make things better with the idea I probably won't do a very good job of that. And two more things. I had an epiphany in college. Jane Goodall came to my college, and she had a film of chimpanzees. And they behaved so badly in that film that after that film, I said to myself, that's it. We're not going to get any better. This is it. Enlightenment, not social justice. That film changed me. I'm a practicing Catholic and patriotic American, more so, probably more conservative than many of you, probably. Just that idea. If you say to me those 2 things are corrupt, I would agree. My first 40 years of life, the main virtue I wanted was courage. My ancestors, my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, and my father were all in war, and all my uncles were in war too. So I was raised with the idea that courage is the most important thing. And Plato says courage is the most important virtue because if you don't have that, you won't do any other virtues. So the first 40 years of my life, I wanted to be courageous. It was the thing that I wanted to be. The last 5 or 10 years is kindness. I want to be kind. I want to put courage aside and try to be more kind. That's sort of evolved in a nice way. So that's me. And I'm very impatient in meetings. You know about this? I'm very impulsive. I'm a little bit crazy. And I sometimes will move things along at the right time, but oftentimes I won't. Okay. Part 1 is finished. Fire. Fire. Volunteer firemen is a uniquely American phenomenon. Most of the world pay their firemen. We don't in America. 70% of the population of America, 70% of the population is covered by paid fire departments. But 70% of the land mass is covered by volunteers, which means that in cities where a lot of people are, they're paid. When you get out here, they're not paid. Who are these volunteer firemen? My fire department was recently described as 99 Republicans and me. What do they do? They're truck drivers, auto mechanics, heavy machine operators, custodians, and professional firefighters, cops, and paramedics. They haven't gone to college. They work with their hands. Their bodies are worn out. Many are in chronic pain. Most of them attend church. Many are veterans. They're patriotic and pay attention to what's going on locally. They don't read the New York Times, listen to opera, or eat sushi. What they call blue collar. They say there's 2 kinds of workers in America: those that shower before work and those that shower after work. These guys shower after work. What do they value? Who are these people? They value courage, commitment, and loyalty. And what type of person is it? Well, I think the 2 examples in our community, I think Billy and our wonderful team working outside, that's the type of people you get there. People who are quick on the trigger, very mechanical, very sort of courageous, and very sort of, you'll go headlong about thinking of things. You're welcome. Good. And so anyway, their fathers and grandfathers were firefighters. It's a family thing. And they're proud about it. They wear shirts, they have pins, they have medals, and many of them are superstitious. They carry in their firefighting stuff, rabbit's foot and stuff like that, because fire is a dangerous thing. You can see how dangerous it is today. It's the most dangerous profession in the United States of America, more dangerous than mining. It's a closed society, and they don't like outsiders because they've earned each other's trust really deeply. You know, what is trust? It takes years to build and 1 minute to lose. And how do you lose it? If you back out of a fire once, or you let your team down once, that's the end. There's no second chance in that world. Maybe there should be, but there's not. So that's how it is. In my fire department, 30 miles outside New York City, we had a good number of New York City Fire Department, Police Department, and paramedics. So we had pros who would volunteer in their spare time. So it was great. I went out to fire as a chief. I had 2 guys who've been in the Bronx for 50 years each. So they know what they were doing. So we had a good crew that way. My department was 100 men strong. It's not like this. In several stations, many pieces of apparatus, several ambulances, and a lot of apparatus. That's my department. Now my journey. How did I join? I was coming home one day from college. I was in my car, and I came back, and they were fighting a church fire, and the road was closed. I got out, I watched these guys up in the steeple on fire with a ladder going into the steeple on fire. I said, man, that's pretty good. You know, so next day, I went down to the fire department. I said, can you guys use help? And yes, they could. So I joined, and it turns out that they didn't know much about professors or philosophy professors, and so for the first 9 months, I sort of got the cold shoulder. I would be in there for a long time, and people wouldn't speak to me. I was getting pretty frustrated about it. After a little while, it turns out that I had 2 things that were good. They had a pool table and a basketball hoop, and I was very proficient with throwing a ball for some reason. I have many things in life I'm bad at. I'm good at throwing balls for some reason. I don't know. A gift God gave me, and for a guy, it's a very good skill. Our fire department had a bar upstairs, a pool table, a TV, and a meeting hall. Melanie's been there. It's as big as this. And there's a full bar. And when I first joined, when America was great, we were drinking and fighting fires the same night. and then drank afterwards too. So that all stopped over time, as you can imagine. Various things happened as we evolved in these things. But in the beginning, it was have 4 or 5 beers and drive the ladder truck. We had 9 pieces of fire apparatus, a brush truck for wood fires. We had 2 ambulances, a search and rescue team, a dive team, a water rescue team, and a hazmat team. It was a lot of big operations, and running it was a big, complicated thing, and a large budget, as you can imagine. When I first joined, we were funded by a county fair. We had a fair every summer, and we used to have illegal gambling when America was great. We had these bell jars and wheels and everything else. So we made a fortune in this thing. So the state made a rule, we couldn't do that anymore. So the state made the rule, we had to go before the town council and get them put a fire tax everybody paid a fire tax, so much money for a fire and ambulance. So we were pretty flush with money there. And New York pays taxes for fire and rescue a pretty good way, in a way this town does not. So we were in better shape than our fire department here. So I'm there for 9 months. I'm not doing very well. I'm sort of on the outs a little bit. And then one night, a gift came to me. I lived very close to the firehouse, so I could get up out of bed early. Get my stuff was all ready. My shoes were laid out, my pants just up in the car, aimed out, gassed up, got to the firehouse. Good. And I get there one night, and I'm in the jump seat of the attack truck 9 months in, which means you're first due, which everybody wants to be. So I'm in there, and the truck takes off. We go, and we go to this what's called a Queen Anne, like these old houses on the Victorian Queen Anne's. There's a certain way, and it was fully involved. And there's a car in the driveway. Somebody said that we think there's families inside. The car's in the driveway. The door's locked. We're on the 3rd floor. You got to hit the 3rd floor. So I got out. I was with my buddy Tom. He's a very experienced firefighter. He had what's called the irons. He said, we haven't got time for the hose. We got to do a search and rescue. He goes, and he opens the door, and he pushes up, and the room's on fire. He walks in. I follow him in. I'm getting nervous. I have my air mask on. We're there. So he looks at the stairs. There's the stairs going up, and the stairs are on fire, and he points to the stairs. So I nodded yes. I don't know why I nodded yes. It was one of those moments. We went up the stairs, up the 3rd floor, on the 3rd floor, and the whole house on fire. There's no ladder, there's no hose, we're in there, But I got out. You worried about that. We're doing the search. It turns out that the family was not home, but however, we eventually had to bail out the 3rd-story window onto a ladder truck came by, and I had to sort of make this thing in the air, get it to the ladder like this, 3 stories up. I don't like doing that, but we had to bail out. They couldn't do it to get us out. So the house sort of burned to the ground. But after that day, I was sort of in with the boys because of that stupid moment of impulsive up the stairs. There's no time to wait. There's a fire. The cop says to the person, "Where's the fire?" There's no time to wait. No, you're going. So when I got in, all the action was on the ambulance. The ambulance went out 5 times as much as a fire truck. The ambulance goes out constantly. Fire truck doesn't go out that often. So while the fires are much more romantic, ambulance where all the work is, where all the jobs are. And they see other things. Now, what I very quickly settled into was the Friday night crew. They would have a crew that slept at the firehouse on certain nights of the week. And I picked Friday night. A Friday night is a very bad night of the week because it's domestic abuse night, and it's drunken driving night, and it's other things night. So it's a tough night, and you get to see sort of the dark side of humanity. So there was 2 other members of my crew, Tony and Tom. We'd go there, we'd shoot pool, we'd have a nice night, we'd go to bed, and then the alarm would go off. And in our firehouse, the lights would go on without alarm. So you're in bed, dead asleep, and lights go on, and you're up and you go. You see, the one thing that I learned this was there's no good way to end life. We all talk about the end of life, how we're going to end it, how we're going to be, take care of ourselves at the end. My experience is, if you go to a couple's house where 95 years old, married 50 years, the fridge ain't going to be in good shape. The stove may be on. The door may be open. At the end, things fall apart a lot. And there's a lot of houses where things fell apart. And it occurred to me that one day I would fall apart. So it occurred to me, I finally got it. I'm mortal, and that we one day we won't be able to take care of ourselves. And no matter how much we prepare and how much we think about it, how much money you save up, it comes a time when things sort of get hard, and that's it. I've often told the story that I've done CPR unsuccessfully 51 times. It was a humorous thing. Now, the first time I did it, I didn't know how almost impossible it was. So the first time I did it, I was very nervous. And for my first EMT by myself, I go out near the ambulance. And when I get there, I find out that when I get there, I find out that the stretcher wouldn't go into the ambulance. And the attendant said to me, he said, "Doc, you're putting it in backwards." So I learned. That was my first time. Over time, we after about the 40th time we got the zapper, the AED, we got that, and so that improved our chances. But still, I never had to save. Save very, very, very things to have. But we would go and do it, so we'd do that. And you learn that life goes on. One of my buddies, a guy called Artie Wasowski, he was a medic in Vietnam, and then he was on our fire department. He's seen everything. So at night we'd be riding in the ambulance, we'd go to the houses, the ambulance would be slowing down, 3 o'clock in the morning. He goes, "Not them, not them, not them, not them. It's their turn tonight." So, it was their turn. Now, I did this for more than 20 years. Most EMTs do it for 2 years and quit, because it's a very, very hard thing to see, being mortal, all the things that go wrong, and sickness, all the sadness of it. But I always felt that there was more good that we could do than bad, and there's a certain type of personality that doesn't sort of tire from that doesn't get sick of it, that can keep on going with it and do it well. I always thought there's something missing in me. I could keep doing it, But anyway, we had some great adventures and some terrible adventures too. Just two humorous adventures. Before I talk about the philosophical side of it, is two humorous adventures I had. A story that a bunch of my firefighters have retired to Myrtle Beach. These are poor blue-collar guys living in single wide trailers a mile outside in Myrtle Beach, in a place called the Myrtle Beach Yacht and Golf Club. And Melanie, what is missing there? Right. There was one wharf which they sold, and the golf club became condos. So the yacht and the golf club there's nothing there. My buddies. So anyway, one day his wife calls me, and she was stung by a bee. And I went there. I did my third call of the day, and I was just groggy. I had a terrible run. I got out the EpiPen, and I shot it the wrong way. So I shot it. I ended up in the hospital with my hand. The fireman remembered that humorously. I ended up in the ambulance. No good. My other favorite story is Palm Sunday. I'm in the Chief's car at this point. I'm chief at this point. I'm in the Chief's car at this point. I'm going, and I get a call for a house on fire. So I go to this house. Here's a house on fire. I'm the first guy there. So I go to the house, and I go inside, and there's a guy unconscious on the sofa. The whole house on fire. So I get the guy to pull him outside. I think to myself, here it is. This is it. The fireman's dream. I save somebody from fire. Well, the guy wakes up and he attacks me. It turns out he was a heroin addict and a pretty violent guy. And he and I get into this brawl. And the headline of the paper was "Firefighter Brawls with Citizen." So, a headline I remember fondly. He did. I never won. What did I learn in the fire service before we get to our slides? I learned that there's another America, and they're different than us, but they're wonderful in their own way. I often think to myself, the story I tell about this is, they did a lot of racist and sexist talk. There's no doubt about it. And I would sit there, and it would come over like a wave all the time. I couldn't stop it. It was there. And my first year in, a black family had their house burned, the roof burned off their house. The firemen that night took up a collection, bought a new roof, and they went and they put it on like 2 days later. They put the roof on. It cost the family nothing. No insurance. They just did that. So while they talk a certain way, I always tell people, if you were in a flaming house tonight, or you have a heart attack tonight, the person that comes through that door is going to be one of those guys. And they're going to come and they're going to do it. Now, what do they get paid for that? They get paid nothing. If they had a part-time, I thought, if I had a part-time job, which I put that much effort, I'd be rich. And they're not rich, but they do that. They give it themselves. So I want to just sort of speak for them. This is a certain thing. And just to let you know, by the way, there's a great difference between police and firemen. The difference is as much as between the French and the Germans. Is that great, you know? French are better food, right? But for example, cops operate by themselves, one person in a car, and they're constantly in confrontations. Firemen operate in packs, and they're always together. You're never by yourself ever, not ever. So you're in this pack, and the pack's the important thing. When a fireman dies, there's a huge event at the firehouse where the engines all come out, all the other fire departments turn out, and it's pretty fantastic, and it goes on and on. What are some of the lessons that I learned there? I learned that actions speak louder than words. Most important thing I learned, actions speak louder than words, you know? If I say to you, I'm courageous, that's an easy thing to say, isn't it? We could all say that. We all think of that by ourselves, right? But you find out inside a fire. A fire teaches you about yourself. It teaches you where you're at. When a fireman went to a fire to search, they before the piece of technology came and changed everything. But before I get to that piece of technology, in the old days when I first joined, the first 15 years, we went to a fire you couldn't see because it was black smoke from all the plastics and all the bad chemicals that had burned up. So you get down on all fours and you crawl holding on to someone's boot or someone's coat. And you didn't want to let them go, because if you let them go, that was literally the end, and there was no second chance. I was in a fire my fifth year where a guy got killed, and that was a big deal of the team he was with and the other departments fault, etc. So that was a big deal with that when that happened. So it's unforgivable. You never get over it. That's a difficult thing. I've learned again that trust is something hard to build and easy to lose. But what someone once told me in the fire service was this: trust is like a mirror. Okay, if you drop it and pick it up, you can still see yourself, but it's never the same after that. Pretty good now. It's never the same after that. So, did that. Firemen are, by the way, there's a belief in some common good, the universal good. That they believe somehow that they're spiritual in a way, because they understand things are going to sort of work out. There's a confidence in the universe. It's hard to say, but they're that way because they believe. It's not cynical materialism. It's not individualism. It's commitment to each other. I would say it's love, and love builds, and it does that way. Fire service taught me many things to sort of tap down my energy. When I first became a lieutenant, got my first radio. The chief, who was my chief at the time, said to me, "Your only job is to sound calm on the radio. That's your only job. That's your only job. Sound calm on the radio." So, what he called command presence, which I had to learn slowly over time to make that thing happen. In time, I really had some adventures that made things happen. So what happened to me in the fire service, two things. First thing was I was fire chief on 9/11 outside the New York City. And I was also battalion commander of my whole county at that time. I was running the whole thing. Don't ask me how. I don't know. And we got deployed from New York City, and I ended up working at the Office of Emergency Management. I'll show you some of the stuff that I brought out of there. So I was in New York City in the down south for about 2 weeks, almost every day. You know, sit down there to sort of see. When I just see the camaraderie of all those fire departments of Connecticut, Jersey, and New York was just pretty great to see. As you all remember watching it on TV, you know. I was in a fire truck that day sitting in standby. So I learned a lot that way, and that was good. And the second thing that was a good thing was how my fire story happened. This is a kind of odd thing. Firemen don't like to put themselves forward. They're a pack person. You shouldn't put yourself forward. So this thing sort of happened by accident. In Putnam County, the county I was in, there's a little paper called the Putnam County Courier, and that is our little local paper, like our Chronicle, something like that. You know. Anyway, I was firefighter of the year one year through various adventures, and the local reporter did a story on me in this paper that had 700 circulation, something like that. So it turns out that in our town was somebody who worked for the New York Times, and they said, well, let's put a New York Times story in this. So they wrote a New York Times story about me being a firefighter philosopher. And then I started getting these calls from people, and I got a call from Simon & Schuster, who wanted to do a book and a movie. So I was gonna be famous. Don't worry, I screwed it all up. Don't worry, as you would expect. So I went down, I had lunch with them with a screenwriter and an editor, and things looking good. This is it, no more mediocre life, and then I'll go to the top. So she says, write the first couple chapters, bring it back to us, this editor. So I wrote a couple chapters, wrote it back to her. And she said, not all we wanted. She said, we want it to be you sort of finding your way, you show them the way, and then take these people and bring them along. I said, well, that's not what happened. I went there and they taught me. So eventually, I got kicked out, the project got scrubbed, and that was it. So I wrote my own story and published it on my own. However, it still took off in a nice way. And ended up a lot of TV shows. For when they wanted a firefighter, they would call me for some reason. So I got called on Joe Scarborough and a lot of other TV shows, Good Morning America, things like that. We talk about the volunteers. And volunteers are underpaid, underworked, and they're a great bunch. So. Okay, now I have a bunch of artifacts here, which I'm going to show you. I have slides, which I can show you how to walk through our slides. Where we ended up. Bill, thank you. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to do it back here. That's okay. You can all hear me? Thank you. Thank you. I'm good. Okay.
Doc?
Yeah.
What are slides?
I'll show you.
Is the new slide up closed or?
I see. It's coming on.
Yeah.
Let me turn lights off, maybe. Let's see. We got 1 second. Coming on here.
Billy.
Okay.
One more light again?
This light's over here.
No, that's good. Do you want this one?
Good job, Billy. Thanks.
I know.
1 second. 1 second here. Good. There you go. Okay. Things I learned in fire. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And again, thank you all for coming. I appreciate this. And again, I'll tell you at the end why I decided to do this. Okay, there's my book in Korean. For some reason, when I translated Chinese, Korean, and Russian, the Koreans loved it. I was a Korean radio and television. You can imagine the confusion that was. Hard to explain what went on there, but that was it. And here's next one of my favorite pictures. So there it is.
What's that, you?
Don't ask me how.
New School for Social Research.
Yeah.
There it is. It certainly is. My New York Times article that started the whole thing too, and that goes on to the idea of my thing that sort of got it going there.
What year was that?
Not 1990, but I was in the fire department a long time before that. This is something I'm very proud of. This is from my 2 badges from the World Trade Center. I was working in the Office of Emergency Management on 23rd Street, coordinating all the stuff from the various counties around, bringing in the heavy equipment, the earthmoving equipment, a lot of the iron workers, and coordinating with weather and search and rescue. And it's down the bottom, a WTC 201 thing. That's my badge. E is my emergency management. F is the morgue. I was also, the Z is ground zero. So I was working at ground zero in the weeks after that. So I was there. It was pretty exciting. These are my boys. Oh my God. Melanie knows these guys, right, Melanie? Oh my God, okay. The guy on the left is a former correction officer. The guy in the middle, NY, is a New York City fireman. And the guy on the right with the thing is a body worker, a body man. He hammers your car and gets it back in shape. And these are these guys. And these guys, of course, because of the lives they live, their bodies are in worse shape than ours. They have hard lives, and that's it. And they have a kind of a hard life. Just a quick story about just what kind of life they live and how it is. Without mentioning the name, one day a wife of one of the firefighters calls me, and she says, "You got to come over here. My husband's got a gun. He's going to kill himself." I said, "You got to call the cops." He's a correction officer. If I do that, he'll lose his job, lose our pension, lose everything, you gotta go over there. So I go over there, and he had something terrible happen to his son. He had a loaded revolver and a bottle of Jack, and he was drunk. And he said, "Doc, get out of here." I was very nervous. I said, "Give me one drink and I'll go." And I got the drink, and then it became 2 drinks, and eventually with the gun down, we got okay. But it's stuff like that that goes on between you and your. I never had that experience happen here.
Where's your tattoo?
I have no tattoo yet. They all have tattoos, and after 9/11, everybody got a tattoo but me, all the party. They all went together with a tattoo. I didn't get one, so.
What's that thing hanging over your head?
I dread to think. It's a garage door.
Oh, it's just garage.
This is, they live as single white tailors, and the garage door is their bar. See, this is at the Myrtle Beach Golf and where they're living in $30,000 mobile homes and drinking all the time.
That's a golf cart there.
Golf cart. My helmet, I'm happy to say, I burned the first couple before I got burned in plastic helmets. There's a lot of helmets, but your helmet catches on fire sometimes, so it can be pretty exciting. And here's the great thing too, is inside fire, you do find out about yourself. You do find out, how you're gonna do. Amazingly enough, when Mel and I went to Scotland, it turns out my cousin, Craig Rogers, is the fire chief of a station in Dundee, Forty Ferry. So that's his grandfather, my grandfather were brothers. And so Mel and I got to drink with the firemen, and went out on a rescue boat in the North Sea with the Royal Naval Rescue Service. So we were the whole gang here. So we were honored, and they honored us. Again, me, one of my boys in a training exercise, that's us. A very important figure in my life. I had a very difficult time with my father. He was different than I was, didn't get along. This is the guy that became my surrogate father, and for about 20 years, he really straightened me out and got me thinking about a lot of things. In Wilson Warm, veteran of the Pacific, island hopping with the Marines. So he was a tough old coot, and old-fashioned cigar smoking, beer drinking. Then he was operated a crane was his thing, so something I couldn't do. That is me in the striped jacket as a young EMT early on in my career. This is what we do. This is the Jaws of Life call. We do many of these. The car goes into it, and they use the various tools to pry the person out. Because when that happens to a car, the steering wheel and dashboard comes in on top of you, and you got to pull it all out. And there are people that are very proficient about this. For example, that little guy you saw me with, he's a body man, which means he knows all about cars, where the aluminum is, where the steel post goes, what kind of engine is in what car, what tools needed. So they're very, very good. And these guys are very, very mechanical, more so than I am, and doesn't take much for that. And they were very, very good at getting that out. So in this particular thing, my job was to sort of be EMT, wait till they finish their job to extricate people. And as you know, it's a very, very nerve-wracking thing when Jaws come out, because you're racing against time, and it's a very, very thing. So we used to practice the Jaws and extrication all the time. We constantly, once a month, we take a car and we crunch it up, different models, make some models, and we time teams taking it apart. When I became chief, first thing I did was bring a stopwatch to our practices so we could improve our timing. And we actually cut our time for Jaws in half. My first year was very happy about. So this is a pretty serious time. The candy cane run. Our volunteer fire department will go around in our thing and give out candy canes and collect toys for tots with the Marines. So the Marines and the fire department, very patriotic, very sort of religious thing, and the Catholic Church all together would collect a mountain of toys. We fill the fire department up. That's me as a young guy there. And Santa would give out, and we'd go through the whole district with lights and sirens. We would publish a schedule so kids knew when to be out. And we'd be 2 whole days out riding the schedule, riding around, except when we had to break off for a call. It was always exciting. You ever think how much you forgot in your job, working life? I actually worked this. And looking at it right now, I'm terrified. I didn't drive the truck very, very much, because you've all seen me drive, but, one particular icy night, most of the department was out in another fire, and I was left back when I was a young captain, and we got a call to assist a major fire at a lumber yard. They wanted us out immediately, it was icy, so I drove the truck, nobody else came, everybody else was out. So I took the truck, and on this pump panel, I pumped it all night long, which means you take water in one, you take out another, you gotta make sure the pressure coming in, coming out doesn't cause what's called cavitation. Who knows what cavitation is? Mike, what's cavitation? Greg? Go ahead.
It's a way of reduced pressure on the suction side of the pump such that the water is vaporizing, and then those, vapor, impinges on the impeller.
And performance goes to hell.
Right, and it can blow the hump that comes out, so you don't want to cavitate, you have to watch all the gauges, things like this. And I was taught by doing it, in case the gauges are on, put your knee on the hose, so you can feel the bumps in the hose. Pretty exciting. I guess I worked that, I'm not sure. Who was that guy? This is called the vertical ventilation. You go up on this is not me, somebody else, you go up on the roof when it's fire, because fire doesn't get, you don't put the fire, you push fire someplace, and you have to have a place to push it. So if there's a fire on top of the house, you got to either open a window and push it out, or you open the roof, push it out. To open the roof means you put a ladder up on the roof, a roof team goes up there with a K-12 saw, or a concrete saw, and you start sawing through the roof to make a hole. And as you're doing that, you go down with a hose, go with the hose, and they push the fire up and through the hole, and then it goes out. And do it correctly, you save the house. However, being on top of a flaming roof is not that good. and Melanie remembers one of my friends came down, and what happened to us on the roof, Melanie?
You fell.
I thought that's another time.
You got into a fight.
We got into a fight. We got into a fist fight on the roof of a building on fire. Over what I wanted him to lasso the chimney for safety thing, and he said there was no time. We got to a fight. We actually got to a pushing shoving fight. He came down to visit me here, and he reminded me of that story. So. When you're choking somebody on a flaming roof, your life is exciting.
Is that a chainsaw you got there?
Yeah. But the K-12 is a circular saw, and that's a better, chainsaw you start. This is what's called the initial attack. As you can see, is that the hose is already inside, means the crew inside, this guy's coming out, taking off his mask. You can't breathe inside for even a few seconds, because that smoke is full of plastics from the rug, from the furniture, it's toxic. So a couple breaths like that will put you out. I unfortunately breathed in a couple times. I was actually hospitalized twice for what's called smoke inhalation, because of mask problems, et cetera, in my career there. So that's somebody coming out, taking the mask off to get a breath of fresh air. Your bottles, it's called a 30-minute bottle, but it'll last about 20 minutes. And the thing is, when one guy in the team goes out, the whole team has to go out, because you can't leave your partner alone. So it's a thing there. So we used to practice Zen breathing when I was teaching the air bottles, because the slower you breathe, Phil, the more time you have to fight the fire. And when you get to the door, everybody's hyperventilating, and the question is to slow the breathing down. So to try and learn how to do that, and we used to practice that at good deals. That's it. And to open that, you open that door, duck, the smoke comes out, and some of you may have seen the movie Backdraft. And what happens in a backdraft is that smoke is actually got stuff in it. And if it gets thick enough and hot enough, the smoke will catch fire. And if the smoke catches fire, that means every single object in the room, except for the marble, will ignite simultaneously. The rug, the furniture, the wallpaper, and when that happens, and you're in it at the bad thing. The fire, when the guy got killed, we were in base fire, it was a flashover, and that happened. So the whole house just exploded out. Everybody got out but one. We were all scrambling to get out. So you're always working with that. And there's signs of the great firefighters can read smoke. There's different kinds of smoke, and different colors of smoke, and different smells, and they know how to read the smoke, when to come in and when to get out, as know this. There's a science to this. So that's the chaos of running a fire. And running a fire too, you're trying to tamp down all the testosterone, all the excitement about trying to get in and get around it. It's a firefighter diving out a window. Things didn't go well, but they were on the roof there trying to do that. They just got to get a ladder up there and get out of there. So it's When I became fire chief, incident commander, one of my favorite things was calling helicopters. You know how cool that is? By the way? Give me a helicopter. One's coming, chief. Very good. Matter of fact, my favorite thing, we called in 2 helicopters. I said, give me 2, why you can't? If you're a fire chief, whatever you call comes. I never tried for a tank, but everything else. They never say no. That's it. So that's it.
Is
So
that a
they,
Bell 205?
what?
Is it a Bell 205?
No,
That chopper? Sikorsky?
I don't know. I'll take your word for it. But when you call in a helicopter, you have to set up a landing zone. There's landing zone frequency. There's landing zone personnel. So at a big crash, let's say, for example, the time we called helicopters is there were a bunch of motorcycles on Memorial Day weekend, and a drunken woman got onto the highway doing like 50 miles an hour going the wrong way and ran like 8 motorcycles.
Oh my God.
And it was a mess. You can imagine. I'm not going to go into all the details because it's almost dinner time.
Yeah.
But we called in 2 helicopters, and so which means it closed the major highway and set up what's called an LZ, which means that there's many criterion. Can't be wires nearby. You know, after 100 feet this, 100 feet distance, you have to mark it with flares. You have to have somebody present. It's a complicated thing. And there's a whole LZ crew to land the thing, get the stretcher out, put them on, take them out, take one thing, and send a second helicopter in. So you do that, and you learn how to do this. It's pretty exciting. Yeah. This is me on Memorial Day parade in town. That's me behind the color guard there in our little town, marching in our Memorial Day parade and our various things. We're very proud to be part of our little town. One of my favorite stories that Mel has heard when we go down to Myrtle Beach in the golf and tennis club, golf and yacht club is my chief after me said, I tell a story. So he said, when on your last day after you were done in 2002 for our dinner, they were giving a standing ovation. He came out and said to my boy, he said, "They're cheering because you're leaving." Here's our station 1. There's other stations. There's station 1. Then that's it. And that's how much they love it. So they do that. So that's a good little thing there. They're pretty good. And the last slide is something just for us to think about for the guys in town who they are is about all firefighters. Life expectancy for firefighters is generally 10 years less than the average person. Okay, due to many dangers, including toxic chemicals you breathe in, your protective gear, which is apparently bad for you, and physical exertion. Imagine wearing 70 pounds of gear, breathing through a thing, and then trying to climb a 35-foot ladder and go through a window, or climb down there. A recent study, this is from Google today, by the way. A recent study suggests it's up to 15 years less of the average American worker. So when I was chief, we had new members come in. I told them this number. I said the statistics are this will take 10 years off your life. Just so you know about that. They did it anyway. So it's a pretty great thing. I can have the lights back on then.
Thank you.
No, we're not done yet. On that. Thank you. We're not done yet.
So you think that's true for you, that you lost some years off your life?
I have breathing issues, Vic, yeah, a little bit. But see, here's the thing. Every morning I go like this to Melanie. What does this mean, Melanie?
One more day.
Mary? Mary said, one more. We got today. Who needs tomorrow? Right? Just a story about me, who I am, is when I was a junior in high school. It's probably a good story that when I was a junior in high school, we had the physical to play football, and the doctor said to me, I have heart murmur my whole life too. So doctor said, you got a heart murmur, you probably shouldn't play. So after that, the coach says to me, he says, you want to play, don't you? I said, yes, let's get a second opinion. Now, some people don't like football. I particularly did. I thought to myself, I was glad I did that day because I wanted to live my life. And here's the thing too is, I don't know, we're all going all together. We're going to see great heartbreak, years from now. But tonight we're here. I have a smile on my face, and it's not today, right? So one more day. So I begin every day. I give her the sign every day. Mary and I would see each other, give each other the sign. And at night, there we go. And at night I would say to her, what do I say at night?
What do you want?
What do you want? It ain't Palm Beach. It's not Trump Tower. West Virginia.
My God.
There we go. That's right. West by Garbage, that's right. It was a place where I learned that the two Americas we talk about right now, I think there's hope for us. Here's the reason why. I think that there's goodness not in everybody, but in a lot of folks. And I think a lot of folks will come around and at the right time and do the right thing. There's a good spirit in this place. And there's a lot of sacrifice and goodness. If you all see all the stuff in town that goes on at Shepherdstown Shares, or goes down at the food bank, or goes down to all the various things in town, or sale, et cetera, all the things we do. And that's it. So I want to actually say, one last thing why I did this, is Todd and I have been talking about deeper conversations. I don't know how deep I got today, but I want to tell you sort of about my philosophical views, sort of who I am, what I am, and how I got it. And if somebody else wanted to do this, talk something about even talking about it, your trip to Nepal, something like that, to get to know each other a little bit better and be a little more gentle with each other. All of us are aggravating, even Andy. So to get to know each other and sort of share with each other more, we do have an opportunity here because of our architecture to be with each other in more loving ways. That's a good way there. Questions or comments before I end? Yes, please.
How old were you when you started doing firefighting?
In my 30s.
In your 30s. they didn't have like age requirements?
Well, you usually stop at 50. The age requirement, they had what's called junior firefighters, started at 16, but they can't go to the fire until they're 18. So you start at 18, but volunteer companies need people. So I'm sure and there's many jobs in the fire department, not just, of the 100 people, probably 20% was fighting fires. The rest there was a president, there was a secretary, there was the treasurer, there was a technology team, there was, the people that fill our air bottles, there was the dive team, totally separate, there were many jobs to do. So, yeah.
How big was your little town?
What?
How big was your town?
I think we 20,000 people. But we were on the edge of the town, 70,000 the whole township altogether. So our animals were rolling 70,000. Bigger than Shepherdstown.
I made that observation here. In all the pictures, the men were kind of chubby and had a belly. And my daughter was a paramedic for, I think, 3 years. And I realized that I think the food intake and the lifestyle is so that you kind of accumulate some, whatever, carbs or whatever it is, because they don't sleep a lot. And my daughter looked just like these people, and then she went to med school and she changed her whole presence.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, and I see it again.
But also, imagine a job where you're sitting around 90% of the time,
Yeah.
and then this heart-stopping,
It's adrenaline.
you're going to die, and you go back to doing nothing. So yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, Todd, please.
Well, how did you experience, maybe one example, of the flow of the universe in your firefighting experience?
Well, that's a good question. I was watching people that were dying. I think a lot of people are dying. And when people are dying, something mystical happens. I'm an absolute believer that there's something more than this, because there were so many people that, the thing I remember most clearly, and it happened many times, the thing I remember most clearly was this. I'm going to get mystical on you now, because I'm a mystic. A 90-year-old woman, she was frail, maybe 95, she was a really old lady, and she was in the ambulance and she was dying, and as we were rolling, she looks up at him and she says, "My mother and father are here." And I said to her, "Well, how?" And she was as clear as day, and she said, I think they experienced numerous times with people who were on their last legs had visions, and I don't put up hallucinations or endorphins firing or things. There's something more going on here. There's something magical going on here. There's something spectacular going on here. Todd, the monarch butterfly is looking for one particular plant, right? One flower, and it comes from Mexico, right, southern Mexico, down, and it comes to my front yard and found that flower, and it ate it like these things, and then went back. That's it. That's the argument from design. The universe is not chaotic. That's it. Okay, thank you very much. It was been an experience for me. Somebody else do one, because you all have interesting stories, I bet. So think about doing interesting stories. The story of your life, where you came from, where you went. life on, you know, I don't know, the Mississippi, the oil rigs of Louisiana, the, I don't know, where's those? Thank you.
Doc,
Oh, you took that, sorry.
if I can. Is there something we could do or as an option to be more supportive of the local firefighting?
Yeah, I don't know,
They just sent out their
Yeah.
fundraiser,
We can write
fill it
checks.
out, write a check.
We can write checks.
yeah, that's the best you can do, yeah, it's a closed shop.
You're too
All right,
old
good
to
night now, thank you.
volunteer.
Apple butter.
Sorry to.
Because we've had to have the ambulance come to our house from our local fire department, I stop in every now and again, ask them what kind of pizza they want.
Yeah, there we go.
Go over and pick it up, and taste pizza.
Very nice. Very nice, Susie.
There's never been any trouble there.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Doctor.
So, no.
You would think that's far. I think